Welcome back, everyone, to the European VC Podcast. Today, we're joined by Matthew Wilson. He is the co-founder of Jack and Jill and the partner Peter Specht at Creandum. Together, they've just closed a 20 million seed round to take their AI recruiting agents global. This is a conversation about how conviction is built in Europe, from founding insights to investor belief. We'll unpack both playbooks, how to spot and shape a breakout company at the frontier of agentic AI, and how to build one with speed, precision, and craft. We've had quite a few episodes covering this lately, so I'm looking forward to see how this playbook is different from other things. Before we start the show, a quick note. If you're building or running a fund, you know it takes the right partners. At EUVC, we only work with sponsors we truly believe should be part of your tech stack. Please do take a moment to hear about them. And if you do, reach out, mention EUVC. It's the best way you can support what we do. Thank you so much. Starting off, HSB's innovation banking. If you're a founder, a scale-up, or a VC, you need a bank that actually understands your world. HSBC Innovation Banking backs innovation globally, from seed to IPO. And if you ask me, a strong banking partner like HSBC belongs in your stack. If your portfolio companies are scaling, they need infrastructure that won't slow them down. Google Cloud Starter Program offers $2,000 to $350,000 in credits, plus technical support to build better and faster. It's a key boost every fund should bring into their ecosystem, and oh my God, are we thankful to be partnering with them. Now, legal is a space you cannot lag on. Legal needs to move at the speed of venture. Goodwin's team has decades of experience with startups and funds. They're trusted at every stage from formation to exit. Goodwin definitely is a legal partner every serious manager should have in their stack. For Luxembourg-based VC, PE, and fund-of-fund managers, modern funds means going digital. Fundcraft gives you a full-service, digital native platform built for today's European managers. It's a must-have if you're scaling smart. So we all hear about the Middle East. How about you go there? From AI to deep tech to sovereign fund, Skytech in Dubai is where global future of tech gets negotiated. It's not just a conference, it's where East meets West, capital meets innovation, and the bold set the agenda. If you're playing on the global stage, join us going to Skytech this year. If you're gearing up for your next fundraise and want a placement agent who truly understands emerging managers, reach out to C Funds. They're a boutique placement agency that has helped GPs across Europe raise capital from top-tier LPs. We've been on the other side of the table here. They are actually good ones to work with. So I do urge you to go to cfunds.io to go and check them out. And hey, before you go, if you're looking to discover startups, raise capital, or connect with innovation leaders, do check out dealflow.eu, the EU-backed platform bridging founders, VCs, and corporates. There's no better place to find the startups that have received significant funding from the European innovation ecosystem.
This was their finest hour.
Tear down this wall.
It's more than just an alliance. This is a union of values.
Let's start acting.
This show is not investment advice, and the hosts of this episode may be invested in the funds and companies featured.
Maybe, Matthew, I should allow you to be the one to first tell us in a little more detail than what I just did. What is Jack and Jill all about?
Jack and Jill, we're building two products. We're building an agent to help people find their dream job and optimize their careers, and he's called Jack. And we're building an agent to help companies hire brilliant people, and she's called Jill. The way that these products work is that they speak to their respective customer, really get to understand what somebody wants out of their career or what a company is looking for out of a hire, and then they get to work at trying to make that a reality. So they both do that in all sorts of ways. Jack scours the internet for every job that he can find and sends them through to people, helps people think and kind of coaches them through thinking about what they want out of their career, helps people prep for interviews. And we're building a kind of all sorts of functionality. Similarly on Jill's side, doing whatever she can to help companies find brilliant people. And then together, these two products are kind of greater than the sum of their parts. As Jack builds up a big network of candidates, Jill builds up a big network of companies that she's working with. They're able to facilitate kind of the most high signal direct introductions and together kind of form the world's most networked, but also most high signal recruitment agency.
Very interesting. This is so exciting. And I think this is one of the tools that everyone and the products everyone can understand. So that it's going to be a fascinating conversation. Peter, I want to shift to you and ask you, because Creandum, if I'm not wrong, also invested in Boardman. And this feels like not in any way similar, but it has similar nuances in terms of it being agentic and coupling people and work, trying to figure out a better way to connect us all.
It shows our conviction in the modality of voice, I think. But it is, I think, two completely different use cases and how people use voice in different spaces. Where Bordy is much more going into sort of like any connections that touch your life and you. Jack and Jill very much focuses on the recruiting part. And as Matt just mentioned, the interplay of you looking for the best choices for your career and what's next, or someone accompanying your career, and companies really trying to recruit the best people. And so it's very much here about the focus and sort of like the vertical, that a massive problem that we were very excited about.
It's super interesting, and we should definitely dive into that modality of voice as well and reflect on it on a broader scale. But first, Matthew, let's ask you to dive a bit deeper. Let's talk about the founding moment. When did you realize that this is what you should be doing?
Yeah, so just the context on me, this is actually my third startup, and my previous company is a company called Omnipresent, and we were building infrastructure to help companies work with talent anywhere in the world, and helping tens of thousands of people find opportunities they wouldn't have otherwise been able to access without what we built. And on the flip side, thousands of companies helping them build incredible teams with great talent that they couldn't have found otherwise. And I absolutely loved the mission of that company and the difference that we made to people's lives and to companies. And I handed over the reins of that company in 2023. And I took 18 months figuring out what the next thing was. It was really, really difficult to actually figure out, you know how hard it is having been through a journey as a founder. And I think there was a couple of things. One, I wanted to do something that I loved, that was on a mission that I really cared passionately about and felt was going to be needed in the world and was going to move the world towards being a better place. And two, I wanted to build something that I had conviction that was going to build something globally leading and build a really ambitious category-defining business. So those are two pretty hard criteria to kind of come across in an idea. And it took me 18 months of really thinking about the way the world was going to move, meeting interesting people. I think the third criteria there is working with somebody brilliant who your values aligned with, skill sets aligned with, and finding the right co-founder. So 18 months of kind of going through the wilderness. Earlier this year it was kind of mid-February when Sarah and I got talking about the thesis for Jack and Jill. It was about a month of us through mid-February to mid-March of us saying, do we believe that things are different this time? There's been so many companies that have tried to build talent marketplaces before, and not very many have been successful. Lots have kind of gotten off to a hot start and then stalled out. So we spent about a month kind of really understanding what was different about AI. And I think, voice is a large component there. The ability to match really accurately being a large component. The ability for these agentic products to actually work on behalf of candidates and of companies in a broader setting than just being able to make matches directly. We spent about a month kind of really building conviction that was going to be the case. And then mid-March, we got started. So yeah, just actually 8 months ago today was the day that we founded the company. So it's been a busy 8 months on our side.
Can you ask you, Matthew, it feels like recruiting has been broken for a long time, especially if you hire in a space that's somewhat sexy. You're flooded with applications, and now when AI then came in 18 months ago-ish, you then started to have stellar applications written by people that have no background in what you're doing. And it's felt like you really needed something to come in and solve this. Is this also part of the first principle thinking that AI is completely, or recruiting is completely changed now because of AI, and for that reason, you also have to change on the tools you use?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think like most AI recruitment products, whether they're built for candidates, whether they're built for companies, are kind of exacerbating the problems that you've had with recruitment rather than actually solving the root cause problem. That's, where we were really, when we got started, I think, keen to rethink from first principles around what does the labor market look like in a world with agentic AI, and not trying to just kind of take an existing process and AIify it and make it faster and better and cheaper. And that leads to this kind of explosion of noise on both sides. That really think about how you can build a really high signal kind of high value recruitment marketplace with agentic AI at its core. There's actually kind of groups of candidates and groups of companies that have different types of problems as well. I mean, you talked about kind of being flooded with high volumes of high quality looking applications and trying to find the signal from the noise. That's true for certain types of roles and certain types of companies. You end up with an excess of applications, and there's a kind of selection problem. There's also roles in companies that have a really hard time finding quality applicants. So you might put a job out, you might get applicants, but actually there's not nobody that's a really strong fit in there. So you have these two different problems on the company side, a selection problem with some roles and a sourcing problem with other roles. On the candidate side, it's similar. You've got some people that are having a really brutal time finding work, and there it's about sourcing opportunities, about helping them through that process and helping them find something that's a fit for them when it's a challenging labor market out there for a lot of people. On the flip side, you've got some talent that's like in incredibly high demand, and for them, it's not so much about finding a good job; it's about finding the perfect role and optimizing that decision. And those are all of those are affected by AI, and we're kind of building solutions for all of those different modalities and those different cases that people and companies find themselves in.
Peter, maybe you can talk a bit about how you built conviction around this. What was it that made you think, okay, this is the opportunity?
If you zoom out at this early stage, the two most important things that we look for is founders and markets, and combining that with a why now. And I think spotting these things at the right point in time is the essence of what you do as a VC. And for context, I mean, at Creandum, 1 in 6 companies that we have backed at seed or Series A have become $1 billion plus company. So it's all about how can you find those right moments in companies to get behind. And when we saw Jack and Jill, it was very, very quickly actually clear to us this is one that we feel extremely strong about. And the first reason, if I tell founder market, on the founders, Matt and Saras are an exceptional team, smart, obsessed, with great company building experience coming from, Omnipresent and Cooler. I think it's also interesting in which space you built before, Matt, and also Saras. The one is EOR, the other one is AI SDR, which are spaces there that are extremely fast paced, that require to move fast, that is selling to similar target groups. So it was a fantastic sort of like, founder execution fit that we saw for this play as well. And then if you look at the market, it's, as Matt described before, it's one of the largest markets out there. Recruiting is one of the biggest problems, not only for companies, as well for people and their personal career choices. And it has a huge impact on their life. And I think what was different for Jack and Jill is there's tons of solutions you see out there or that are tackling recruiting from different angles. But Jack and Jill is just not another automation play or another recruiter on steroids. They're doing both. I mean, like they're introducing stuff like Jack and Jill, and they're introducing a new modality for AI in the space that now actually works with voice. But much more than that, they're a two-sided marketplace with network effects. And I think that is different from so many of the, pure agentic AI plays you currently see that have, less defensibility or there's true value in sort of like the network that is built up in Jack and Jill.
I'm super curious because I noted down the words two-sided marketplace with network effects as well. And I was exactly curious to dive into that further because marketplaces are a bit different now and network effects are a bit different, I imagine, in the AI era. So I'd be super curious to dive into that a bit. But before we do that, I think to make it super clear to everyone, you described so well Jack and Jill and how they work on each side of the marketplace, so to say. But maybe from the user experience side, could you describe it, Matthew? Just like, I'm a recruiter, how to experience Jack, or I'm looking for a job, how to experience and interact with Jill.
Yeah, so let's take Jack. I think that's something everybody can empathize with. If we want Jack to help you find the best job out there for you and help you make that a reality, the first thing that Jack needs to do is he needs to understand who you are, what you're looking for. And these things are actually really complicated. How somebody thinks about their career is it's not a set of 5 or 6 criteria of job title, compensation, location, industry. It's really complicated. And I think the premise that we started with was, if we were looking for a job and we wanted to have somebody in our network help us out with it, I wouldn't send them an email. I'd go and get a cup of coffee or a beer with them, and I would sit down and I would say, okay, here's a bit about my background, but actually, like, here are the things I'm looking for. Here's how I think about this. Here's the things I care about. Here's kind of my take on this space. Here's the types of things I love doing. Here's the types of things I don't love doing. Here's the types of people I like to work with. Here's the types of culture I like to work in. And how do you replicate the extraction of that depth of kind of context? The way that we think is most natural is the way that we do it as humans, which is over a conversation. So the experience starts with sharing a little bit about yourself, your LinkedIn, maybe a CV if you've got one to hand, but then jumping into a two-way conversation, a voice conversation with Jack, our AI. And that is a kind of magical experience. I think it's a real wow moment for so many people that aren't used to having these types of conversations about their career. And through that conversation, Jack's, digging in, probing, understanding exactly who somebody is and what they want out of their career. And once Jack's built up that kind of contextual understanding, he then gets to work helping make that a reality. So he looks at every public job listing in the world that gets posted and shares them with you if they're relevant as they come available. He can help you, coach you for various opportunities. Oh, I'm applying for this. Can you give me some feedback on my CV before I send off my application? Here's the draft of my application. Can you give me some feedback on this? You can do mock interviews with Jack. So, okay, I'm interviewing for this role. Let's role play this. And then you also get direct introductions to companies that are a perfect fit, where Jill has gone and done that deep discovery on the other side as well. So I think the structure of both products is deeply understand the context and the nuance and the depth of how somebody thinks about themselves in their career, and then kind of build whatever agentic products we can to help make that a reality, and then interface with them where they naturally are already. So email, WhatsApp, there is a web interface, but you never need to go into the web interface to actually use the product. You can do it entirely over email and building that kind of ergonomic way. Similarly, on the company side, we really understand what a company's what types of people succeed at a company, what they're looking for. Yes, you've got your job description, but there's so much more to it than that. So again, replicating the conversation you might have with an agency recruiter, briefing them on who you're looking for. And then from there, Jill can share candidate profiles from the candidate pool of 60,000 candidates that have spoken to Jack, and can help out with a bunch of other things around the recruitment process, which we're working on as well.
If we then talk about it as a marketplace, the natural problem that you often have in a hiring situation is that on the person that wants to get hired side, there's sometimes a posturing element and you have that interest. And on the other hand, as the recruiter, you're trying to uncover the truth. I imagine that you, as the AI that then interfaces and kind of does the matching as well, you could have that agency problem between who am I actually working for here?
Yeah, it's a great point. And it's exactly, if you think about the name of the company and how we've built the product, it's built with two agents. It's built in that way because Jack works 100% for the candidate and represents the candidate's interests 100%. Jill works 100% for the company and represents the company 100%. And, there's information that you would share with Jack, who's working for you, that you wouldn't necessarily share with the company. That's a kind of core insight that we had as we built out the product. Is so you look at like human recruitment agencies, they have this huge conflict of interest. It's one person that sat in the middle of the relationship. They've got their own incentive structure that they're primarily optimizing for. They'll get paid once a hire is made. So they end up, kind of selling and overselling at times opportunities to candidates and candidates to companies, and trying to kind of bridge this incentive conflict between the three different parties involved. Whereas with our model, Jack is, he's not actually optimizing for Jack and Jill. He's optimizing for the candidate. We take a fee on hire, but actually we kind of trust that by building these two agents to represent their own customer entirely, that will build the best product for both sides in the long run, and that will lead to the kind of growth of the growth of our business over the long run by getting that perfect incentive alignment. So yeah, that's kind of a core insight behind how we built the product with this two agent model.
I think the interesting part here is actually that if you think of AI doing this and how you done it and splitting it up into two AI people in Jack and Jill, it is actually, I think, the better product than a human recruiter over time. And AI is ideally suited to keep memory of all those data points it learns about people and will remind them all the time at all points in time. And the same goes for companies, which, humans, we will always forget one or two things. But really, if you think this through at scale, it's actually not only like an efficiency or more automation or less costs or whatever. It's actually the better product that will more likely match more people to the right firms.
I want to ask about the coaching side, because you mentioned it as an aside, but I imagine that it's something that's really good to ensure the stickiness of the product and people getting into the funnel early as well. Like, I'd be curious to understand that side.
Something that's so important to us in our careers and what job we do, the amount of careers kind of services that people use is like woefully small, and the quality of the products out there are not great. With AI, we've got this ability. It can kind of dramatically reduce the cost structure, I think massively improve the quality of the products that are out there for helping people think about what they want out of their career, think about making that a reality. I think we've been talking about this product as a marketplace. I think that's one lens to look through the product on, is that you've got this two-sided marketplace with two agents that are facilitating the introductions. I think the other way to look at it is two compound AI products. And that's really how we think about, first and foremost, think about Jack and Jill, is saying, if you had 100 people working for you to help you out in your career, what would you get them to do for you? And how do we then build Jack to be able to do that? So you'd probably have somebody giving you coaching. You'd have somebody going in and helping you prep for interviews. You'd have somebody else going and reading through all of the job boards. You'd have somebody else reviewing your applications as you're sending them off. You'd have somebody else looking through your network and thinking about who you could get introduced to. That's how we think about building out Jack. And actually the network is only one of those 100 people that's actually out there going out looking at who Jill's speaking to. So yeah, coaching and helping people think about what they want out of their career, and then helping them make that a reality through whatever means we can do is a big part of what we're building out with Jack.
Peter, I'd love to ask you, if you describe your thesis around it as a marketplace with network effects, can you elaborate on that?
The more people are on each side of the platform, the better the value for both sides are. And I think it's the network effects in a very classical sense, right? Every customer on both, every user or customer increases the value of the platform. That is the simple math behind it here.
Yeah, I think you to just make it really real, if you imagine you had a friend and you were looking for a job in startups in London, and that friend had actually, in the last 2 weeks, had spoken to 400 different hiring managers across startups in London to really understand what they were looking for. You'd go and talk to that friend if you're thinking about making a move, and they would think about who they could introduce you to. Now imagine if they spoke to 4,000 or 40,000, and they'd also spoken to all the people in New York and Paris and Berlin and San Francisco that could also potentially hire you. The more people that friend has spoken to, the more you'd want to engage with them and keep tabs on what they were seeing in the market, because they might have something super interesting for you. And vice versa, if you're a company and you've got the most networked person that you know that deeply understands what 60,000 people want out of their career, if you're hiring, they're probably the first person you go and tap on the shoulder and say, hey, I'm thinking about hiring somebody for this role. Do you know anybody great? And you can imagine, as that scales up to 600,000 to 6 million people, how valuable that friend would be. And if that friend could have this incredible, perfect recollection of all of those conversations and some of those relationships over the years, you can imagine how valuable that friend would be.
Matthew, I wanted to, because you've built Omnipresent as well and have tried to build a company, so to say, before the era of AI, and now you saw that there's a big opportunity and you decided to go at it again, but now you're building a company in a completely different context. Everyone who's building now are saying, I've never tried anything like it, and many of the things that we did before, we would do completely different now. I wanted to ask you about the AI playbook, but I think we should go about it from the angle of a 20 million euro seed bet or $20 million seed bet, because that is, of course, a very significant investment round. And thus, you're now about to truly scale up the company and build your way into the market. And I'd love to ask both of you, what does a growth journey like this at the seed stage look like today when you're raising 20 million? What are the next steps, the things that are different from maybe a 5 million or 10 million seed round 5 years ago? And Peter, maybe you can reflect on the more abstract side first, how is today different, and why are the seed rounds so much larger, and why does it make sense to make such large seed rounds today?
If you zoom out, it's always about two things you look for. It's about, do you think this company has outlier potential and operates in a huge market and is on a great track to execute on that? Then you look at, where does the company stand? And it's true that the market has evolved where round sizes have increased. That said, I think Jack and Jill is one of the, still also an outlier on the round size and sort of like the round they've raised of one of the larger ones, etc. However, they've also executed in the first 6-7 months since inception of the company like rarely other companies do. And so it's a reflection of the speed of execution of the team that is behind there. The fantastic and strong early momentum that the company has. I mean, getting in on 50,000 candidates on the platform. If you actually talk to users, like very strong initial user feedback. So there's meat behind it on what has been built so far and how strong one can grow from here on. When investors look at things, you look at where do we think this company will be in 12 months or 24 months? This is also something you factor into sort of like a round. And here we think this can grow extremely fast. And the fact that Matt and Sarah's are founders that also have done it before, know how to do it, know what the next steps are, and know how to put that money to work is something that is important when you do a large round like that. And so it's a space where you should build the best product fast and deliver sort of like value very fast to users on the platform. And how our thinking was like, we want to enable Jack and Jill with the amount of money sort of like that gives them the best shot at it and gives them no limitation on executing on that plan as fast as possible.
Yeah, I think as Peter said, like we're here to build a global category leading business. We're going to do that as quickly as possible. The pace has changed between how companies build today and how companies built 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The speed at which you can grow, the speed at which you can build 10x better products, and I think the speed at which you need to grow if you're going to build a leader in a competitive space. For us, speed and quality of execution are the things that matter above anything else. Building the best product, building the best team, getting the best distribution of that product, and then kind of those things reinforce each other over time. We kind of relentlessly focused on kind of upping the speed and quality of execution. And I think, that starts with building the most talent dense team possible. I think you talked about what's different now versus a few years ago. I think the focus on talent density has changed. And I think that's changed for a good reason. I think there's a couple of things that are very different about this company to my previous company, and in terms of how we're building it. One, I think AI enables, you've had this split between, top performers and average performers for forever, where the top performers can be, maybe 5-10x more productive than the average person. But AI amplifies that and leverages those top performers even more. So if AI makes the top people twice as productive, again, that makes them 20 times as productive versus 2 times as productive as the average person. And actually, those top people tend to use AI more and more intelligently than average. So maybe it actually makes them 40 times more productive than average. So I really do believe that you get this leverage of the best people. That means that in order to like scale the throughput of the company, you don't need to add huge numbers of people in a way that you might have done if you were building a company 4 or 5 years ago. And at Omnipresent, we grew from 2 people to 450 people in 3 years. That comes with this kind of enormous diseconomies of scale, and how do you kind of maintain culture and maintain the quality bar as you do scale that up. You can build a much smaller team, but with much higher kind of talent density. I think you can get so much more done, and it's also more enjoyable as a CEO running a smaller company than it is running a big company that's going through a kind of a hyper growth from a headcount perspective. So, for me, the quality and speed of execution just starts with, can we find the best possible people to come and join our team? We don't need to be hundreds of people, but we do need absolute superstars in every position. So that's something, obviously, as a business, we think a lot about, and we think about recruitment a lot, and we use our own product. But I'm kind of obsessing around how do we find the best 30 or 40 people to build this company to be a global leading business, rather than how do we find 400, which I think is a big difference on a few years ago.
For clarification, not every company, it's like the outlier to raise that type of seed round. The majority of seed rounds we and other VCs look at is like 3 million, 5 million, 6 million, 2 to 8 million, whatever it is in the range. It really depends on the situation of the company, the founders, and where they stand and how far they've executed already. And then there's sort of like every now and then exceptions. Lovable, for example, we did a seed or pre-series A round there, which was a 15 million round a few weeks after the launch. Matt and Jack and Jill, they launched, a few weeks before and had this amazing initial traction and proven a lot already. And so it's more the outlier to range that type of round than making it sound like that's a standard that is happening right now. Because really the majority of seeds we do and other top firms and that we see in the market is more on a single digit level. Yeah.
Which is also why I find it so fascinating to talk to you, Matt, especially also with the history of having built Omnipresent, how the playbook is different this time around, and raising 20 million at this very early stage. Well, what does that enable you to do, and why is it worth it? Why is it? Because you're obviously not taking money because you can. You're doing it because there's a reason for it. And I'd have 2 questions. One is so there's the hiring side where there's more talent density, and for that reason, especially in AI today, obviously it's incredibly costly to get the best talent. On the other hand, you need one instead of five, maybe. So maybe that squares out somewhat. But I'd love to also understand the other growth metrics or the other parts. Where does the rest of such a big round go into when you're at the seed stage investing so heavily?
Yeah, I think there's two other things to think about when it comes to us. One is, like, as I was saying earlier, like, we're building two businesses in one. We're building a consumer business with Jack, and we're building a B2B software business with Joel. I really do think about the business in those two ways, as it is kind of two separate companies inside one. So that's two different go-to-market motions. There's two different products, two different support organizations to actually support the customers of those two businesses. So I think you can kind of divide, and then you need the kind of central team to be able to manage that. You've got to divide the round into two, and it seems maybe more standard if you think about it through that lens. The other thing is we believe that in order to build the global category leader, we need to be across multiple markets and going and competing on multiple fronts. And doing that very early in the company's life cycle is something that we're going to do. So we've kind of started in London. We're mid-launch in San Francisco at the moment. We'll be expanding after we, into other markets from there onwards. So, entering a new market requires upfront investment, especially when we monetize through the marketplace. You also have to kind of invest upfront to build out that network and build out that marketplace. So those are a few of the reasons why we think, for us, it's always about working back from the end state and saying, what does the winning company in this space do, and how do we do those things, and how do we move as quickly as possible towards being that business? Kind of investing on all of those fronts is something that we feel we've got the kind of execution ability to do that and split focus in that way, but then also need to capitalize that and need to invest heavily on all of those fronts.
One of the things you've been absolutely incredibly successful with is, of course, go to market. And it's something that I think every founder listening, and probably a lot of VCs, would also love to dive into. What does the go to market plan look like for a company like yours that are truly an AI agent first?
I think, as I said, there's two different go-to-market motions, right? We've got a consumer go-to-market motion, we've got a B2B go-to-market motion, and those two interplay with each other. Your go-to-market motion starts with the product. The product needs to be great. It needs to be value additive. Ideally, it's something that will get people excited, get people talking, will drive word of mouth. And that's the foundation of the go-to-market motion. I think starting with the go-to-market motion is the wrong thing to do. You start with the product, and then you think about the buyer of that product, the user of that product, and then think about how you can get it in front of them and how you can excite them and activate them to use that. The tactics around how you go to market are definitely changing with AI, and we're betting big on that. So AI for content creation for our B2C advertising and our B2C marketing is something we've been doing a lot of. It's been super successful. The amount of creative that you can cycle through is just incredible, and you test out all sorts of different things, and the cost and speed of doing those experiments is so low compared to what it would have been a couple of years ago. So that's a big element. Then actually how you do the targeting is changing, how you do attribution, how you think about, optimizing who you're distributing advertising to is completely different. And we do some really amazing things on that front in terms of understanding who's activating from a given campaign, and then being able to predict the value of the customers that we acquire from a given campaign, and then building that kind of complete loop from creative to distribution to then prediction of value, and then looping that on the consumer side. On the B2B side, I'm a very big believer in thinking from the buyer's perspective first as you think about building your go-to-market motion on the B2B front. The current purchasing method for B2B software is crazy in my mind, particularly for SMB and mid-market. You think from the company's perspective, okay, let's have an inbound SDR team qualify our leads. Then let's have an AE go and sell and close the deal. And then let's transition to an AM and a CSM. You think about it from the buyer's perspective, it's crazy. We've all been there and bought this software where you do a call, you kind of want to buy something, you go on a website, you're forced to take a call with a junior SDR who then, qualifies you to see if you're worthy of having a conversation the next week. And then you have a conversation the next week, you ask them questions. And it takes you 2 weeks to buy something that you would have wanted to buy straight away. AI enables you to actually answer all those questions dynamically live, to be able to, we really think about how do you build AI, Jill, not just to be this great recruiter, but also to be the best SDR, the best AE, the best AM, the best CSM, and actually act throughout the entire life cycle of the kind of buyer journey and the customer life cycle. And we're experimenting with all sorts of stuff there, and I'm super excited to build out more of that over time as well. I think it's going to be great for the buyer and great for us in terms of the type of organization that we can build and the pace at which you can grow. You're not constrained by the number of AEs that you hire, which is the rate limiting factor for a lot of B2B software companies. If you can escape that by having AI actually enable the go-to-market push, and that's something that we're really excited about.
Peter, I'd love to ask you to comment on the go-to-market motion in AI companies. How are you seeing things change now, both in the pure native AI companies or the ones that were started a bit before, but are now, of course, adapting and moving very quick?
First, I think the most notable thing is that the pace has changed. Expectations have changed and the pace has changed. So you need to move much faster. You need to grow much faster. And with every company being able to build faster, given sort of like AI coding tools, etc., distribution becomes even more important. It's sort of like one of the core parts of defensibility by now, core advantages. I don't know if you should call it defensibility or advantages. And that means it became even more important probably. And so what's the trend we see right now in the market? The fastest growing AI tools out there have been PLG driven. Also, I mean, if you look at the European markets, Lovable, PLG, then adding a enterprise motion on top of it. 11 Labs, PLG, then adding an enterprise motion on top of it. Synthesia, similar stuff. And then, of course, in the model companies, it's slightly different. I mean, like Forest Labs here in Europe, or Mistral, or of course, OpenAI and Anthropic. But I think PLG has proven to be sort of like the go-to-market of choice in AI so far, or in the fast-growing companies. And then people are adding the enterprise motions on top of that with the brand that was gained through the consumer or PLG or prosumer motion.
Can you expand a bit on the PLG go-to-market motion, so to say, for everyone to understand and what it looks like? Because obviously, we just like reiterate to those, like it's product-led growth, which means that it's the product that leads to the adoption inside companies, and typically it's small value, so you don't have to go up and ask your IT manager if you're allowed to buy it and so on. People are doing it almost from their own cards sometimes, and is exploiting those dynamics. But maybe, Peter, you can expand a bit on exactly what you're seeing. And also, I'm sure that there are built-in features that are similar to all the AI companies that are kind of using the same hacks to ensure that PLG motion is much stronger now than it's ever been.
Let's take maybe Lovable as an example, as that's a company many know, and that has nailed that motion pretty well. They started out with the PLG motion, of course. They launched, and the key, I think, is similar to what Jack and Jill offers, this like magical experience. If you talk to, Jack, it's like a pretty magical experience. If you build a Lovable website for the first time, it's a pretty magical experience. That sort of like very fast level of sort of like satisfaction that you get is very important in that PLG motion. And what did they have as well is they built virality into the product. So there was this edit with Lovable button. There was this, template gallery of like different projects that you can see there. And like basically every website on the web, you could see that was being built by Lovable. You can click on it, you can copy it and build your own site and these kind of things. And so that virality flywheel they had built in is like things that they have driven by the product to be sort of like viral. Then there comes another component to it, which is, I think, the social play, similar to what Matt just mentioned on like content creation for socials, etc. It has become even more important to be very visible on LinkedIn and these things like post the founder journey, post your progress. Lovable has been very vocal about their ARR growth, which has helped them, gain attention. These are the new playbooks that you now do. You try to build virality into your product. You try to get to instant gratification in the use that is that magical experience that Matt was talking about. And then you be very, very vocal about it online. And I think Jack and Jill has gone, a pretty similar route of like, instant gratification, magical experience for people. I mean, if you ask probably talent and recruiters right now, many know Jack and Jill within a very short amount of time. So very vocal and visible online. And I think that is the new sort of like AI playbook that looked different than how you built a SaaS company like 6-7 years ago.
The fundamental thing is it was really hard, but like borderline impossible 5, 6, 7 years ago to build a 10x better product. It's now possible to build products that are 10x better than the status quo. And if you can deliver value to people and you can do that with a bit of pizzazz and a kind of wow moment, But fundamentally, it's about having a product that is delivering like strong value to people. If you use Jack and it helps you find a job, you're going to know people who are in a job that they don't like and are thinking about making a move. And you think, oh, this is an incredible new thing. It's interesting. It's new, but it's also like adding a ton of value to me. I'm going to share it with people I know. Like, I think you just got to think about it from the perspective of the customer as like, what is going to get people talking? What's going to get people sharing stuff? It comes down to building a product that's superior than what people are used to, and then making it easy for them to adopt and get value from it and then share. Like, that's the root cause of all of these things kind of blowing up, is they build, like, Lovable was an incredible product and it was adding a ton of value to people that wasn't possible before, or was possible through a much more difficult means. And that product forms the basis of the explosive growth, having just a far superior product.
So I think the past 2-3 minutes were like PLG, and this is the fastest growing AI motion that we've seen, right? But I think there's also a wave of new AI companies that are not that visible yet, which is the very, very enterprise heavy AI companies. I would say the classic is right now, people, Palantir founder, being very, used to deploy AI in big enterprises, seeing very, very good insights, building a new company, very focused on heavy enterprise. And I think there, maybe as a caveat, PLG is not for every company, right? And so there's a different sort of like enterprise go-to-market motion still, also with AI company that is very enterprise heavy, still a bit more traditional. It's about dinners, being at the conferences, talking to those traditional leaders on why they should now deploy AI and that it's safe and accountable and these kind of things. So there's two worlds, just as a caveat for listeners here. It's not only one way to roam. Yeah.
And obviously the consumery products that are growing, you can't grow naught to, a couple $100 million in ARR in a year with the enterprise motion. It just, you need the sales force. You need to hire them, ramp them, get them out there. The deal cycles are longer. Like at this stage of the adoption, like the most buzzy companies are going to be the consumery type companies, and they're going to be the ones that can have this explosive growth, which is just kind of, it just takes a couple of years to go to grow to the same level with a sales-led motion. Doesn't mean it's not something that you can do, but it's kind of, there's obviously a kind of selection filter in terms of the companies that are going to be super visible to consumers.
Can I ask, try something off of you? It's something that when we spoke about the PLG here and building virality into the product, and also some of my own experiences have kind of made me start to think about, and that is the productization of marketing or productization of go-to-market. And with that, I mean that in the old days, in quotation marks, you would not, as a head of marketing or CMO or whatever, be managing, so to say, a product whose output is marketing. But it kind of feels like now you're developing internally small machines, small products that are servicing the rest of the business with its marketing, so to say. What I mean is that you'd maybe before have 5 people hired plus an agency and so on and so forth. And now the expertise you actually want is being able to stitch together a bunch of different AIs that go out and act on behalf of you. And you want to build something that can integrate into the existing product and understand what is Jack getting to know about the market and how it's moving. What can I use to develop content here? And you don't want people doing this. You, of course, want an AI that's siphoning out the most important things from the customer feedback and then putting that into a campaign and then goes out and puts it in the market and improves it from there. And that feels more like a product exercise than a good old marketing exercise.
We're kind of building out the engineering team to be in every function in the business. And that's true on consumer marketing. It's true on B2B marketing. I think there's, great engineers should be involved heavily in these functions in a way that they have been in some degree previously, but I think even more so today. So we rethink about how do we get as many builders into the business in every function as possible.
Yeah, I probably used the wrong word because I used product, and the point here is actual engineering and dev. Is that something you see, Peter, or am I completely just blabbering on about stuff that people will be shaking their head at?
No, I mean, like you say, or Matt say, that's a bit of the new way of how companies operate, and what AI enables you to do much more in-house than doing it outsourced before. So some engineering understanding or extremely good use of tools out there is sort of a new skill set that that is required.
Okay, guys, I want to close on a closing reflection, so to say, for both of you. Matt, maybe you can give to the founders, that are listening, what should be on people's mind? What's the one thing that people should really be solving for? And Peter, maybe you can give the VC perspective on what's the most important thing to understand today if you're building in tech in general.
I'll go with two things because I can't pick, but I think there's so much incrementalism at the moment, and a lot of AI companies that are taking an existing process and automating it. And I think a lot of those companies aren't going to be around for the long term. I think you need to try and project out what does the world look like with another generation of models, another 2 generations of models. And from first principles, think about whatever market you're in, like what does it look like in 2028, 2029, 2030 as AI progresses and as the markets actually reshape as kind of products get built out, and think about the second and third order effects of what you're building and build for that world rather than build for necessarily kind of world of today, and try and kind of bridge that gap. The second thing is just like hiring. I think like it's changed, like the way that you build teams has changed. Finding brilliant people and building talent dense organizations, I think is something that, having been able to kind of start with a clean slate this year, can see the benefit of hiring a small number of really brilliant people. I think you can out-execute companies that have been around that are much bigger than you are, just through the nature of being a small team with close communication and leveraging AI to make everybody more productive than they were previously.
Maybe from mine, I mean, most important thing when you're want to start to build or thinking about starting out, I always ask myself, what's the unique insight you bring to build something? Are you just following the market, or what is unique insight that enables you to build that company? And then think about how this can be a game changer in the long run. I think very much to Matt's point, there's many sort of like quick dollars to be made and getting to a few $100K ARR, but it's really like sitting down and thinking how will the market and world evolve in the next 5-10 years, and building something which can be long-term valuable.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I completely enjoyed it, so I hope you guys did too.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Before we start the show, a quick note. If you're building or running a fund, it takes the right partners. At EUVC, we only work with sponsors we truly believe should be part of your tech stack. Please do take a moment to hear about them. And if you do, reach out, mention EUVC. It's the best way you can support what we do. Thank you so much. Starting off, HSBC Innovation Banking. If you're a founder, a scale-up, or a VC, you need a bank that actually understands your world. HSBC Innovation Banking backs innovation globally, from seed to IPO. And if you ask me, a strong banking partner like HSBC belongs in your stack. If your portfolio companies are scaling, they need infrastructure that won't slow them down. Google Cloud Starter Program offers $2,000 to $350,000 in credits, plus technical support to build better and faster. It's a key boost every fund should bring into their ecosystem, and oh my God, are we thankful to be partnering with them. Now, legal is a space you cannot lag on. Legal needs to move at the speed of venture. Goodwin's team has decades of experience with startups and funds. They're trusted at every stage from formation to exit. Goodwin definitely is a legal partner every serious manager should have in their stack. For Luxembourg-based VC, PE, and fund-of-fund managers, modern funds means going digital. Fundcraft gives you a full-service, digital native platform built for today's European managers. It's a must-have if you're scaling smart. So we all hear about the Middle East. How about you go there? From AI to deep tech to sovereign fund, Skytech in Dubai is where global future of tech gets negotiated. It's not just a conference, it's where East meets West, capital meets innovation, and the bold set the agenda. If you're playing on the global stage, join us going to Skytech this year. If you're gearing up for a next fundraise and want a placement agent who truly understands emerging managers, reach out to C Funds. They're a boutique placement agency that has helped GPs across Europe raise capital from top-tier LPs. We've been on the other side of the table here. They are actually good ones to work with. So I do urge you to go to cfunds.io to go and check them out. And hey, before you go, if you're looking to discover startups, raise capital, or connect with innovation leaders, do check out dealflow.eu, the EU-backed platform bridging founders, VCs, and corporates. There's no better place to find the startups that have received significant funding from the European innovation ecosystem.
This was their finest hour.
Tear down this wall.
It's more than just an alliance. This is a union of values.
Let's start acting.